Welcome to Detailer's Roadmap Cruise Control, helping you navigate the roadways of life, business, and everything in between.
Hey guys, Hold on. Hey guys, it's Kevin Davis from the Cruise Control Podcast. This is episode number 14. I am here with one of my best friends in the world, Jimbo Balaam, who is an influencer, detailer, podcaster. What else do? You do all sorts of things. But Jimbo and I have known each other for pretty much a decade now. We've done his podcast. This should be episode like 25 of the Jimbo and Kevin show. But we've done his podcast a lot. So welcome, buddy. Appreciate you coming on board.
Yeah, thanks for having me. These are always fun. And yeah, I think you hold the record for most times on my podcast. So glad I can return the favor.
Ah, that's awesome. I like that. Hey, give me a little bit tell me your background. I've been calling this like our detailer superhero backstory, but give me your backstory on detailing. You've been through a lot of changes over the last decade since we've known each other. Kind of give me that backstory. Tell me what you're doing now. And then we'll kind of get into it. Just want to talk some business strategies and, kind of help out those other detailers on everything you've learned from your however many episodes you've done on your podcast.
Yeah, I think I've done I know it's over 700. I just don't know how close to 800 I am. I haven't looked in a little while, but, my story starts from, I was in college, community college, hated school, always didn't like school. I'm an avid learner, but not in the school sense. And I was working at a restaurant on like weekend nights, and a buddy of mine was into washing his own car. And at the time I had just gotten a new to me car that had a car payment attached to it. And so I was like, you know what, I'll start washing my car with him. And so him and I started washing cars, and I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. And I'd always had kind of an entrepreneurial mindset, always knew that like in the future I wanted to own my own business. I just didn't know what kind of business that would be. And as I kind of developed this hobby of washing cars, I had an epiphany one day of like, maybe this could be a business. Like I didn't even know if that was a thing, And so I did some research. This is like early 2008. Did some research, just found out about mobile car detailing and that it was a thing. And so I started to go down that whole rabbit hole and just became completely obsessed with it. Started May of 2008 as a mobile detailer, and did that full time pretty much out of the get. Like, because I started in May, this kind of season was happening, though we don't have too much seasonality in Southern California where I'm from. But pretty much hit the ground running. Quit the restaurant job in like June or July of that same year. Quit school. I never signed up for the fall. Quit school right away and just kind of went all in. And I wouldn't recommend that, but it worked out for my circumstance at the time. I was living at home. I was only 19. My expenses were basically my car payment, and that's about it. And so I could kind of afford to take that big leap. And then around 2012, I was getting pretty burnt out on detailing, doing a lot of fleet washes, doing it. A normal decent day was like 10 to 15 cars that I would touch and do by myself, solo. Tried scaling it a few times with people, and I just I don't really have the knack to manage people. So I had another epiphany of like,
you don't work well with others. Is that what you're saying?
I don't work well with others. So I had this epiphany of like, I don't. My wife was just here, and we had like a little mini meeting because I'm trying to include her because I have so much stuff going on that stuff starts falling through the cracks. And so she's very organizational and very good with that. And so we had a little meeting before this, and I hate it the whole time. It's like, I would almost rather have my fingernails pulled out. Nothing that she does. It's just me. I just don't work well with others. So I decided I would try to scale with systems and not people. And at the same time, I was listening to a lot of podcasts and had finally gotten an iPhone. And so I was trying to keep my mind occupied as I was detailing. And I had a thought of like, man, I'd really like to start a podcast. And I was talking to this one guy, Pete, who I still work with. And he's like, you should start a podcast about car detailing. Like, you probably know everything there is to know about detailing. You've been doing it 4 or 5 years. And I'm like, there's got to be someone that has a detailing podcast. And so I searched, autodetailingpodcast.com, and it was available for $12. And so I thought, man, I'm going to run with this and just see what I could do. And so I did like 100 episodes out of the gate, like right away. And that's how we met through doing the podcast. And I've met a ton of people since then. Had talked to everyone that I wanted to talk to. And so then I started interviewing YouTubers, and it was like, wow, this is interesting. So then I started doing YouTube on top of the podcast, basically for monetary reasons. And then, YouTube led me into some product consulting. So I consult for, a global brand on product development, brand development, brand positioning. I've got into private labeling. So I private label for like some brands. And more recently to like present day, I've really, the like content creator side of me was always like a side hustle. Like the content creation thing was always a side, even though I've been doing a podcast for like almost 10 years and YouTube forever. Like I always thought of it as a side hustle, and I had the side hustle mentality behind it. And this is actually something that we haven't even talked about off air, I guess, Kevin. And, but as of like the past couple of weeks, I've really started to hone in and kind of lean into that title of like content creator, and as my full-time gig, and then have the physical detailing take a shift as the side hustle. And then in doing that, I structure my days differently and kind of do and operate a little bit differently, with content creation being the forefront and everything else being secondary to that. So that's kind of present day, even though I've been at this 10 years, which is so typical in my fashion to be like, oh yeah, duh, So that brings us to present day.
Yeah, but I mean, first of all, I think your story, I was talking to Michelle about this last night. We met with a couple over the weekend. And there are certain people that think of themselves as entrepreneurs, right? Like there's certain people that kind of think of themselves that way. And really they're not entrepreneurs, they're small business owners, which is
100%
totally fine. And I should say before, so we have about a 1.5 second delay. So if there's a weird little audio thing going on in terms of how Jimbo and I are discussing this, just ignore that part. So I want to explain, we're not each having individual strokes as we, yeah, sure. We'll blame me. But like and there's totally nothing wrong with being a small business owner. But what Michelle and I were talking about, Michelle's my wife, if you haven't listened to this podcast before, but, there is just a certain mindset when you're an entrepreneur. And I think the two of us share this same thing, which I think what we do is we pivot constantly. Like you'll do this, and then that's not necessarily delivering all the results you want. So then you'll add this, and then sometimes that will replace the initial thing. And I think in your case, like I know you've gone back and forth between, should I do detail cars because it's so easy and pretty easy money, and I still have these clients and I need this extra income and revenue, versus just going full feet in on whatever you're doing. And it's really cool to see how you've use that entrepreneurial spirit to kind of come into your own, and how everything has built on everything else.
Yeah, I think that's I love what you said about the difference between a business owner and an entrepreneur. And when I was getting started, it took me, like everything I do, that's sometimes very frustrating. It just takes me a long time to get to an epiphany that usually my wife has had like a long time ago. But I did have that epiphany that you just talked about a while back of like, there's a difference between a business owner and an entrepreneur, and there's nothing wrong with it, but it's a distinction that really doesn't get talked about a lot. And when I was coming up and wanted to, had that thought of like, hey, I want to own my own business, I was, my dad owns his own business and always has for a long time, for 30 plus years. And so that was kind of my North Star and my guidance. And I liked the lifestyle that offered. But as I started to do it, and, I started an odor removal business in like 2014 before the podcast. Like I've dabbled in, I have like entrepreneurial ADD, but I started to have that realization of like, there is a difference between an entrepreneur and a business owner. And what I think the distinction is that a business owner works for themselves as a job, which is great, which is amazing. An entrepreneur has a borderline a job, but they seek out opportunities. So they're going to be way more opportunistic than a business owner would be, which is fine. It's just a distinction that I never thought about, that I never realized. And then I had that epiphany and I'm like, wow, that is actually a massive difference between a business. Because I would get frustrated at like my dad for not seizing opportunity. And then I had that epiphany and I'm like, man, he's just a business owner. He just wants he just doesn't want to work for someone, but he's cool with like getting a normal paycheck per se.
Yeah, because it's not like, with a small business owner, it is a job. And I think the two of us are good examples that even as an entrepreneur, as you develop new opportunities, if you kind of seize those opportunities, search for new ones, they become jobs at least in the interim. And for both of us, we're kind of in that same state to where we're, I still work for a lot of my brands, but I'm continually trying to improve and bring people on. I have VAs and, all that. And so trying to expand that. And like you said, I mean, if you're just going to work in your business and have that, you're comfortable with it, and you don't want to really kind of expand your horizons just to expand your horizons, which I think all entrepreneurs do. Like I get
it's like curiosity,
the day to day.
Right.
Yeah. It's not necessarily you just need to always do something different.
Sorry, I'm trying to work with this delay, but it is hard. But yeah, it is, and I lost my train of thought. But yeah, how's that for a thought?
Oh, you were saying something about like it's going in those different opportunities and having ADHD of the entrepreneur.
Yeah, it's like you get a little peek behind the curtain of something, and you're like, I think it's interest, right? Like, ooh, what is like? I would like to start a podcast. Like, what would that look like if I started a podcast? What would that do? And then you like kind of tiptoe into, like, you peek behind the corner, and you're like, oh, that's interesting. And then before you know it, it becomes a whole nother thing,
Yeah. And like for me, I always look at like and everybody and their dog has a podcast now, right? Like probably literally some dogs are doing podcasts at this point. But like I looked at it, like for Detailers Roadmap, the one we're doing now, I'm helping these guys build, and I'm doing content creation for them particularly, and trying to kind of use this as a platform to educate people about kind of a different side of the detailing industry and the business side of things. And I'm talking to people that don't have anything to do with the detailing industry. And for my other podcast, the personal one that we do for Maxed Out Man, it's more of a let's talk to everybody in the world about everything. But that becomes a kind of a way in from a marketing standpoint for people to get to know the brand. And so both of these work similarly in that it's just different content.
I have a good story about that in an unrelated market with a person that I knew, an acquaintance that I knew. And I had lunch with him. This is pre-pandemic. I'm going to say 2018, 2019. He was doing employee benefits, and he was a new guy, and he was having his target market was like CEOs of these like 50 to 100 people organizations. And he was having a really hard time getting past the gatekeepers. And I told him, I'm like, you should start a podcast, because though the auto detailing podcast has been profitable or generated revenue at times, over the 10-year time frame, it is not profitable at all. However, monetarily profitable, I will say. However, what it does do is give access. And that access, what you can do with that access can make you more money. And that's exactly what it's done. Right. And so I told this colleague, this guy that I knew, how about that, man, you should start a podcast about whatever you do, employee benefits. And then you can pitch the CEOs that you actually want to sell to their organization, but you don't pitch them on the sale because there's a million other people calling them pitching the same thing. You pitch them to come on your podcast, and then you develop a relationship with them, and then you come in the back door with what you want to sell them. And it really, really worked for him. And I think the same is true with like the Detailers Roadmap in a way.
Yeah, because we're here to get the word out and, talk to people about what makes good websites, what makes good business, and then like for us, it builds brand loyalty, it builds brand identity, and allows us to kind of, get in touch and integrate people that I know, because this is a good way to tap into a network that I have. But then it also kind of goes to the masses and lets people hear these podcasts, learn something from them, and then, learn a little bit more about what we do at Detailers Roadmap. There's a guy named Alex Hermosi.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you've seen him he's on TikTok and all that. But he mentioned the other day that if you're a local business owner, and this is something you guys can actually do, even though everybody already has started a podcast, feel free to start another one, because he was saying that local business owners, one of the strategies is to actually go interview local business people. So like realtors and all the, like, go to whoever the leaders are in your community and start and just normal small business owners. And what that does is that starts to, like, you become the community podcast for business owners. And then that allows you, especially like as a service provider, as a detail shop, that gets you access to all sorts of different people.
And what people underestimate about something like that is, I call it like hyper local marketing. Like, marketing in a hyper local area is so much easier because your competition is so much lower. When I set out to do the auto detailing podcast, my idea was like, man, this will be so cool because I could do the whole world. Like, the whole world can listen, and I'm listened to in like 137 countries, and it's awesome, right? But as more shows pop up about detailing, the competition gets harder. And if you try to break, you're not as established with 700 podcast episodes, like your methods or your reasons for having that show need to be a little bit different, right? But I think if you can, I've talked about this a handful of times on my show with, really, whether it's Google business listing or Google ads or Facebook ads or whatever, targeting a really specific hyper local market that you can dominate and then expand out of that if you want to. But, like you said with Hermosi, like, that's brilliant, and not everyone's going to be good at podcasting. Not everyone can talk, not everyone's going to want to do your podcast, but it's a good exercise, I think, nonetheless.
Yeah, it definitely takes a certain kind of personality in order to do this, and you have to be comfortable with, kind of BSing your way in front of a camera, in front of, whether you're or a microphone. But it's, the way I treat this is like you and I are going to lunch, this is literally the exact same conversation we have if we were going to FaceTime each other
totally
a week like we do. But yeah, so you can kind of figure out what works for you, and it may not be a podcast. So for example, like you're in Seal Beach, which is, how many people are in Seal Beach? I'm talking about like that hyper localized marketing.
I think about maybe 20,000 people.
Yeah. So, and you advertise what? Huntington Beach, Seal Beach.
Yeah. Newport Beach, maybe.
Just throughout the OC.
Orange County.
Is that what you're?
Well, so I really started with just hyper local. So I grew up in Seal Beach. So I knew a lot of people in Seal Beach. And that restaurant that I talked about that I worked at was in Seal Beach. And so, my dad owns a business in Seal Beach. Like, so my hyper local market that I felt most comfortable with was Seal Beach. And so what I would do is like go to the mechanic. There's like two really popular mechanics in Seal Beach, in what we refer to as like Old Town, and in Old Town, everyone brings their car to these two mechanics. And so what I did is I went to them and developed relationships with them, or I needed tires on my car, and I'd be like, hey, you want to barter? Like, I'll trade you tires for like a detail. Or I tried to do dent repair for a while, and I like, hey, I'm learning dent repair. Could I, work on your car, or like customers junkers that they don't care? And like, just over time develop the relationship with them, because they were hitting my target market of people who may want their car detailed, but we didn't sell the same service. We sold a different service, and I detailed, one of them has a tow truck company attached to their repair shop, and I would detail the tow trucks and the owner's personal vehicles. And, so that was my hyper local market, the managers at my restaurant, because I could pick their car up while they worked and bring it over to my house and detail it while they were at work. Or, so that was my hyper local market because I was already entrenched in that market.
Yeah, and so you build the network for yourself. I mean, you've got the repair guys that are getting cars in that look like crap, or maybe it's a nice car, and they're like, hey, Jimbo's detailing, auto detailing gives all my customers 15% off, or whatever the sales tactic is to get those people over there. But I think what a lot of people, we talk about this with SEO a lot on the Detailers Roadmap side, which is like, you don't need to do SEO for the entire county of 750,000 people. Like you because that's the tendency is everybody wants to, especially detailers, they like, well, we do some mobile detailing, but we want to get people inquiring from this 30 or 40 mile radius. Well, you don't really need that. And it's not going to help you because they're not going to want to drive to you anyway.
100%. And it's actually, and if you're mobile, it's extremely inconvenient. I made that mistake. I was in a BNI group, a business network international, which I recommend for anyone starting out in a business too, because I connected with a local insurance agent in Seal Beach who is a neighbor of my dad. And that's how I got connected with that. But and he would, every time he signed someone up with like their car insurance, he would pay for their first car wash for free. And then I would give him a deal on the back end. So that was one of the initial deals I worked with him. But through that group, I got a referral to someone. They were like 30 miles south of me, right? In an area that is affluent, but it's not really in my circle, and I took care of that client for a long time. But over time, it's like, man, if I had, 2 cars in Seal Beach and then I got to drive 30 miles away and then 30 miles back and I got another car in Seal Beach, it's like, that doesn't work, So to your point, like, not only does hyperlocal SEO get you to the top of where you want to be faster when you target a smaller market, but as your business grows, it's actually much more efficient.
Yeah, and I mean, and you say 30 miles. Like for me, I can go 30 miles in 25 minutes. For you, 30 miles is 3 hours.
Yeah, yeah, it depends on which direction, yeah.
Depend on the traffic. You live in Southern California, which I hate the traffic there, but so you use that as a marketing strategy. What other marketing strategies did you use when you were first getting started?
Google. So first getting started was definitely the BNI group. That really helped. And that really helped also because, that's not a pyramid scheme or an MLM or a network marketing. It's not that. It's a bunch of other business owners that get together on a weekly basis, but there's actually some really good side things that happen from that group too. Is you have to get up every week and you get like a minute or something to describe what your service is, what you're offering, and then every couple months you get a longer, like, I don't know, 10 or 20 minute presentation that you could do all about your business. So it really gets you really got to kind of crisp up your pitch, your sales pitch of what you do every week, and then they, encourage you to meet with other business owners. So that really worked really well for me. Not sure that it works anymore. I haven't been in it because it's more of a beginner thing. But Google Ads worked really good.
Yeah.
And that was kind of really what was good.
Yeah, because I mean, BNI would then be like Chamber of Commerce meets the JCs, or what's the starts with an R? What's the I can't remember there's a couple of other organizations that are like that. They're like service organizations, but they're business organizations. Let you train to kind of do public speaking, let you learn more about advertising, let you learn more about, networking and that kind of thing. So any of those kind of groups are really important.
Yeah. So it was pretty much that, BNI and then Google Ads. And by that time I'd started the podcast and, YouTube. And sometimes, the focus for me on YouTube and the podcast is not to get local clients, but I will definitely get some local clients from that, or they're searching. Here's where I think, it's really important to have, whether it's a podcast or whatever, is it establishes you as the kind of authority in that space. And so if you think about yourself in a local market and a customer's maybe doing a Google search and you guys all pop up or whatever, Yelp, whatever, you all pop up and they're kind of doing their investigating and they go on your website, then they go on your socials and they see that you have a podcast or a YouTube channel. I think, and my experience has been that person is a lot more likely to go with you over the competition or another shop that doesn't have any of that stuff. because you seem a little bit more like an authority.
Yeah, so you're just building that authority. And is there particular, I mean, you're obviously a content creator. So I know, we talk to these guys a lot about, hey, if you don't just show pictures of shiny cars, like most people don't care, show procedures, show you doing those things so that people can understand what it is you do, differentiate. Is that, and you're doing more short form content now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that draws more people in too. See, the problem that I've realized that a lot of detailers do is they look to other detailers for their own marketing. So they see that other detailers post shiny cars, and so they post shiny cars, right? But what they don't, so they're marketing to other detailers. They're not marketing to potential customers. And what the potential customer wants to see is a before and after shot, right? Or a process shot, like you said. So too many detailers just look at what other detailers are doing and go, oh, I'll do that.
Yeah. And I think you give a great example of, when we're doing advertising, when we're doing Facebook ads or Google ads or whatever, we do a lot of A/B testing to see what works. And I think that's one thing that I've seen you do over the years is like, throw 10 things at it and see which one gets the most exposure. I know that you've been doing short form content for maybe a year, 18 months, something like that, in particular.
Mm-hmm.
And you've gone viral with a lot of your, what would be considered, well, that was really a dumb little video, but like you'll get a bunch of views from that.
So not only do I get a bunch of views, going back to the local mechanic, so I have an addiction to the new car smell. So I haven't been visiting the mechanics as often because I had been getting new trucks like every couple years and kind of flipping new cars, right? And so, but the car I have right now, I really like. And so it was time for tires and brakes and some maintenance. And so I popped over to my buddy at the local mechanic in Seal Beach. He's like, hey man, how's it going? Haven't seen you in, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. How's everything? Right. And he's like, dude, I've been following your videos of you with that little brush and blah, 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 blah. And I had another epiphany of like, whoa, detailers give me so much crap for that. But actually someone would be potentially my customer or talk to people that would be my customer, enjoy it and actually follow it and watch it. And man, he knew everything. And I hadn't talked to this guy in 4 or 5 years.
And so like, would you say there's a direct correlation between the more detailers hate it and the better the potential customers like it? Has that been your experience with all your videos? Explain what video, like what videos you're talking about.
Yeah. So to answer your question, yes, because customers want to see the process. They want, my thought behind it was a satisfying video, because we're in this realm right now of, you need to get someone's attention almost instantly. And that was my thought of like, I need to get someone's attention almost instantly. And then honestly, my viral videos are, I'll take like an IK foamer and I will foam a door panel, and then I will take the smallest brush that I could find, and I will just brush the door panel all the way down and then wipe it clean and whatever, right? Usually I do it in like a sped up motion, and it's really the most ridiculous thing you could ever do, and I don't recommend it for detailers to actually do in their detailing business because it actually doesn't clean that good, and it's just for show. But really what stemmed where that idea came from was I was so sick and tired of all the troll comments on YouTube about how I didn't know what I was talking about. And my thought was like, dude, what do you mean I don't know what I'm talking about? Like, I actually have done this. I did this detailing thing before the internet thing for like multiple years. I've literally touched thousands and thousands and thousands of cars. I've done it in every capacity possible. I've done everything from the local police force to multi-million-dollar private collections and everything in between. Like, I know what I'm talking about. And so when I got really burnt out on that, I thought, man, this short form content is like perfect as troll post. So like that idea of foaming a door panel is like a troll. I'm being a troll to the trolls. But then you get 17 million views on a video and you start to reconsider your troll post of like, maybe I accidentally stumbled upon something. So there we are.
Yeah, I was watching a guy. It was one of the Think Media.
Yeah.
They were doing. You know what Think Media is.
Yeah,
If you haven't seen what Think Media is, go check them out. They got some really cool stuff. But he was.
My wife
interviewing a
did
guy
Heather
at one of
Torres's
those-
makeup.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Claim to fame for me.
But he was interviewing a guy at one of those social media kind of conferences, the Raw conferences or whatever. And he was saying that and this is kind of to your strategy, but he was saying that what he does in his videos is he purposely will either mispronounce or actually call something by the wrong name. And he did that once on accident, and he the views for that video and the engagement went crazy, because once the engagement goes, the algorithm picks it up and it shows it to more people. Well, like in his example, he called Socrates, he referred to him as Socrates. And like, he could not believe, like, and he did that one on purpose. He didn't give the example of the one he did on accident, but like the virality of what your content can have, and really what that does, it gives you free exposure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
So like so you haven't been doing, are you still doing detailing at all? You still can't give it up?
I do very, very little detailing now, especially after this kind of shift over the past couple weeks of like, okay, like own it. Because the word like influencer, content creator is so like, oh, you're an online marketer. Like, it's so ick, it has such a negative connotation that I never wanted to own that. But when I did kind of an analysis of like, hey, what are the things that I enjoy doing that make me money, that have a trajectory to make me even more money? Detailing wasn't that. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm not a good people manager. So like growing a big detailing business has never been in the cards for me. Never what I wanted to do. I enjoy detailing. I like it. I do it. I like doing it on a one-off, situation. But running, I was just, with the owner of Detailers Roadmap, and at Jason's thing in Chicago, and like Jason's built like this massive detailing business, and I'm like, this is so cool, and I could appreciate that, and I like it, but it's just not for me. So when I started to like kind of analyze the things I do and what I like and the lifestyle that I want around that, it really became obvious that like, dude, you need to like really take content creation a little bit more serious and really make that mental shift of like, you're a full-time content creator and you still detail for fun on the side, versus you're a detailer. Like, what does your husband, what does your husband do? Or what do you do for work? Oh, he's a car detailer. Well, now it's like, no, I say sales and marketing because I still can't get over the content word. But, really, I'm a content creator now, or sales and marketing.
I just started telling people I'm a drug dealer, because trying to explain how I have 4 businesses and 12 brands is so annoying to me and to everybody else. I just say drug dealer because it pretty much stops the conversation right there, and it also gives people context of what you actually might do. I think people then assume that I'm a pharmaceutical rep, but that's not what I'm talking about.
And drug
but
dealing,
yeah, I mean, doing the content creation. So yeah, I mean, like we're saying, we're always looking for those opportunities, right? Like that's the.
Hey,
I'm actually fascinated. That's a family show. It's not really, but it is today. So like,
on guest, Kevin, for the family show.
I'm fascinated by the economy and the business side of the pot industry. Like, I've watched all of those documentaries on that stuff. And what's ironic is that I went to Oklahoma. I did some real estate stuff in Oklahoma and hung out with my Oklahoma family, which all of them are from Oklahoma. And literally like 4 out of the 6 that are directly related to me are somehow attached to the pot industry, because it's huge in Oklahoma. So all that to say, I'm not really a drug dealer, but it's easier to give context. It's funny that you even at this point, the amount of money that you've made and the progress you've made as a content creator that it's still hard for you to say. And I'm the same way. I say I do social media marketing and, sales and that kind of stuff.
But it was really bad when I still said that I am a detailer, because the next thing is like, oh, can you detail my car? How much? And that started to be like I don't, no, so I really had to work my way out of that. But I think there's some freedom in it too, of like, for me, when I look at structuring my day, I always thought of content creation last. And now, I mean, this is still fresh, so this could still very much change. But as of like the past, I don't know, a few weeks, a month, there's freedom in being like, hey, what content am I going to create today? Versus, do I have any cars to detail? No cars. Okay, whatever. I'll putt around all day.
Right.
And
honestly, content creation is something I think if we're looking at ways to do marketing and to do essentially, very cheap marketing, you can do it with your phone, pair of AirPods, if you're not, or you just do TikTok and Instagram stories and reels and all that. You can even throw free music on there. But if you think of yourself as a detailer, detail shop owner, and content creator at the same time, then the content creation, even if you spend 15% of your time doing content creation, or 10 or whatever it is, all of that and those efforts can actually just be a guerrilla marketing tactic.
100%
business.
100%. And the phones are so good. It's like the barrier to entry to become a content creator are so little. I mean, your lighting and camera setup right now compared to mine is amazing. I'm going to text you later on that. But I do have, so I was so ghetto in my YouTube setup in the beginning. And then I went balls to the wall, because I don't know if it's a detailer thing, a male thing, a human thing. I have no idea. But I wanted to get better and better and better. And that better to me meant like higher quality stuff. So I hired a full-blown like team, a video guy, a camera guy, an editor. I had all that. And what was interesting was I saw my views decline. So I've done a reversal on that lately of like, man, people really wanted my content to, especially on YouTube, to be like raw and real. And they liked that side of Jimbo. And then I got like too professional looking, and people in the analytics told me that's not what people were looking for. But I am jealous of your current situation, your camera setup.
Well, we wanted a particular look. Like I've got pictures on the background, and I've got chairs and lighting and, kind of ambiance and stuff.
Looks great.
Like that. And the lighting makes me look better. The camera does a defocus thing that makes this better, because we're, again, but it's deliberate because we want a particular look.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to then use this content, the video content, especially, we're turning into shorts, and I'm also doing short form content separately. And so it provides a certain kind of brand identity with these things. But like if I do short form content, I've actually been playing around and we were A/B testing what we want to do. Sometimes I'll sit back in this chair and I've got all my windows are blacked out with sound and light blocking curtains right now, but I'll open all those so then I get more natural light in, because it gives a whole different feel than what it is right now. So, but all that to say, like an iPhone 14 or whatever number they're on now, I have an 11 and mine is still like in shooting 4K with 60 frames per second. Like it's perfectly fine.
Yeah, it 100%. And even the microphones have gotten pretty good on it. I used to record a lot of podcasts in between detailing appointments, and I used to just use my headphones, like these headphones I would use, and it was like good enough. But the microphone quality, or the Adobe Enhance that you talked about now, and like AI fixing stuff, is like it is so crazy to me how good the technology got. I don't know if you remember our first couple podcast episodes, but like trying to connect Skype with a call recorder and making sure you have like call recorder and Skype updated and synced and adding money to compare to what we're doing right now. This is like insane.
Yeah.
But one thing you mentioned earlier too, that I want to make sure, I think it's a good tip. You talked about how the look and feel that you want for Detailer's Roadmap. Am I saying that right? It's Detailer's Roadmap, right?
Yeah. Yep. Detailer's Roadmap.
I wasn't sure if it was like Roadmap Detailers or anyway. I've listened to every podcast episode. so I should know it.
Yeah,
But
sure you have. We'll go ahead and say that that's true, but
but no, you made a good point of like you are taking your longer form content and cutting it down to short form content too. And I think that's a really good point and a really good thing to make too, to distinction to make too, is like make sure I call it like juicing the lemon, because I haven't figured out how to come up with a better analogy, but like make sure if you're taking the time to create the content, make sure you're getting everything out of the content that you can, and a really good thing, a really good like simple piece of content, I think, of detailers, whether mobile or a shop, if they want to like their first piece of content that they want to put up, I think could be like, if you have a shop, it could be like a walkthrough of your shop. Here's our lobby area. Here's where we work on your cars. Here's where we wash the car. If you're mobile, here's our rig. Here's what, or here's what the customer experience is like. When you call us, when you come to the shop, here's what you see. Here's what the outside of our building looks like. And then it could just be about your shop. And that can kind of like knock off the nerves a little bit. And then you can dive into like deeper content, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a couple ways to shoot that. If you want it to look like pretty smooth instead of you walking through, even though there is a little bit of image stabilization now with the iPhone. If you've got someone that has a gimbal, you can buy a gimbal pretty cheap now still, and you could walk through that way, or just set up a tripod. And the tripod I have right now is one of the little Amazon Basics one. I think it was $16. And then I bought they have a tripod topper for your iPhone that can, that literally it's just a stand that grabs your phone. So you can set that up either in selfie mode or normal mode and take that. So if that walkthrough in your example takes 11 or 12 minutes, well, you now have like 20 30-second clips that you can do. And shoot it in wide form, but center yourself in the, shoot it in 16:9 4K if you can. For that purpose, a lot of 4K stuff is so big, it's just impossible. So 1080p is fine, but shoot it in 1080p or 4K, do the 16:9, but center yourself in the frame so that then you can turn that into 9:16 for YouTube shorts and TikTok and reels and stories and all that. But same example, go detail a car, like, actually wash the side of a vehicle and show all those steps, and then cut that stuff up, use it for long form. If it takes 15 minutes, show the full thing on YouTube, cut it to 5 to 7 minutes, then make 7 or 8, 30, 40, 60-second spots. Like that one afternoon of shooting gets you so much content, and you don't even have to edit yourself. Go to Fiverr.com and get someone to edit it for you.
100%. And just keep it super simple until you get your bearings under you. Like, you don't need a, elaborate setup. It's just not, it's cool and it makes you feel good. But like, honestly, just start getting the content out there. You really don't want anyone to see your first few videos anyway,
Right.
It's true.
They definitely get better, but I think, and I think people appreciate the rawness. And obviously, we talk a lot about knowing your ideal customer, and you need to understand, and even ask them. If you've got a certain customer set, say, hey, I was watching this thing on Netflix. What kind of things do you watch? Do you have any recommendation on Netflix or Hulu or whatever? You can get a sense of, do they like documentaries? Do they like, and so you get a feel for, or who do you love on YouTube? I've been looking for someone else to follow. And then you can go see what they're, if they're a Mr. Beast, or if they're any other content creator, or even, then they can see you can get a sense of what kind of content they want to see. Because like in your case, the professional side of things didn't work as well for you because it was not what I call your voice and your face. And voice not being your auditory voice, but just your feel.
Exactly. Yeah. And sometimes it takes time to find your voice and to find, to shake the nerves out enough that your personality can start shining through the content. Because, like you've said before, these podcast episodes are like, we're going to lunch, we don't even recognize the microphones and the cameras anymore, and so, but that's a skill set in and of itself. And that's what I started to realize with content creation, of like content creation and being able to create content out of thin air is in and of itself a skill set, and it takes time to hone that. And also a quick point, like, don't get caught up in the numbers. I know that's easier said than done, but like, if you have 100 people that watch your stuff or listen to your podcast, or 50 people or 25 people, like, what I like to do when I'm down on myself of like, oh man, the podcast only had 1,000 downloads, or like that video is not hot, it's like only got 500 views. I imagine 500 people in front of me. And it's like, if you change that perspective of like, man, I only got 25 listens. And I'm like, dude, that's 25 people. Like, how hard it would be to walk down the street and get 25 people to listen to you talk for 10 seconds, let alone an hour or a half hour or 15 minutes or whatever it is. Like, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, and I think most of the experts, the content creators that I've been paying attention to, there's a great website I told you about, Creator U, that has a bunch of different, educational things that teaches you about social media and stuff. But a lot of what they teach is that I would rather have 100 fully engaged people than 100,000 mostly not engaged people. Like, and that's like pure dollar for dollar. Like, you want fewer people that are fully engaged.
And that's 100% right. I mean, I have like almost 100,000 followers on Instagram, with pretty low engagement, a lot of likes, but like, as far as getting those people to take action on things, it's pretty difficult. And I have like a very low percentage of that following for my podcast, but yet the engagement, and if I tell people, hey, go, here's a deal, or get this, or like try to funnel them somewhere, the engagement on the podcast is so much better. Like, even though the audience size is a fraction of what I have on other platforms, the engagement and getting those people to go do something is so much higher.
Yeah, 100%. So as a detail shop, I think the net of it is shoot some content because you need it. It's free. It's easy.
And it's working. It's literally working.
Yeah, it's totally working.
It's our moment. That is another thing.
Follow people like Mr. Beast. It's our moment. Right, go ahead.
Well, no, it's our moment for detailers. I mean, there's a guy on YouTube, Ray's the Entrepreneur, and he went around with some mobile detailing guys that I actually met at SEMA. I can't think of their name right now, but met at SEMA this past year. And this guy followed them around, just like mobile detailing and shooting videos for them, and it blew up on them. And so the car cleaning, the satisfying videos, like, the disaster details. I mean, any part of car detailing is really having its moment with the general public that would be your target audience. And so take full advantage of that. If you have a shop, oh my gosh, like, so easy to shoot content inside your shop, but equally as easy as a mobile guy, and the general public, the people that would be your customer, are actively looking and watching that style of content right now, unlike ever before. And I'm not talking about, here's how you shine a tire, here's how you get glass clean. I'm talking about like, here's what we did. This is what it looked like before. Here's what it looks like now, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be, Lambos and Ferraris and all that. So if you're thinking, well, I don't even do those kind of clients, well,
who cares?
You don't need it. No one cares.
You don't need it.
First of all, most of the people, unless you live in a particular place and have a particular clientele, most detailers that are listening to this and detail owners, you're maybe do that once every couple of years. Like, but you're doing Yukons and minivans and Camrys and, whatever else. The average car now is like $42,000. So it's not, these aren't crappy cars. So, and most people drive those cars. Figure out what they drive and use those as your, and use them in particular. Like, get a full set of different people.
100%. You want relatable content. If you're talking virality, if you're talking getting the most amount of people as possible with the most engagement, you want relatable content. That's what I think. That's what's been my experience. I think the Lambos and whatever, that hypercars, supercars, whatever, I think that's really cool. I think there's a market for that, but there's also a whole back end of that people don't realize, of like, you have to deal with those people. And those people aren't always the best people. And in my experience, in my neck of the woods, could be different. Those have been the worst and the cheapest clients ever. I want like a 3 to 4 year old Honda, Toyota. I don't really want a minivan, but I want like a 3 to 4 year old car that just doesn't look as good as it used to. It's not thrashed, but it's not great. That's my target market,
Yeah, which is, I mean, obviously that works really well for you, and it gives you a much larger target market than the few guys. I mean, and you're in Southern California, so there's even more that have access, that have those hypercars and supercars, but there's a hell of a lot more of the 3 to 4 year old Hondas and Toyotas and that kind of thing for sure. And so again, back to what I always say, which is know your target, and remember, your target is not the detailer on your Facebook group.
I was just going to say, stop following detailers. Only follow. Here's the 2 things that you need to follow: the Auto Detailing Podcast and the Detailer's Roadmap Podcast. That's it. Other than that, don't follow anyone. Don't do it, because then you start doing what they do. It's so funny when I go to like these events in SEMA, whatever, and it's like, oh, Jimbo, did you see that other guy? Blah, blah. And I'll admit, I'm a little embarrassed. Like, I'm sorry, I haven't seen any of his content. Like, Jimbo, have you listened to the Rad Company podcast? I'm like, dude, I had a great podcast with those guys. I really, really like them. I don't listen to it. Not because I don't like it. It's not because I don't like it. It's because I don't want their content to influence my content, because I try to create regular content, or Pints and Polishing podcast, or name any of the other detailing podcasts, right? I don't listen to any of them except for Detailer's Roadmap and Maxed Out Man.
just because you like me, that's the only reason. We're friends.
No, but
I mean, that's a good point though. Like, you have to, you got to be careful what your input is with this kind of stuff. And granted, all of those podcasts and the YouTubers and different things, they may have valuable information for you,
100%.
But go out, take some stuff from them, and then try to implement it in your own content and in your own shop, for example.
100%. Just be careful. I am careful with myself, because I have seen it done before where it's like there's content that's just regurgitated, and it's like, I remember when that was said originally, and it kind of has like that cringe factor, which is why I started foam interior door panels as well with little tiny brushes, because I'm like, this is going to be real funny if anyone ever copies this.
I mean, the new one now is to throw the polisher in the floorboard of like a super, super dirty car, and then let it vibrate out with the
vibrator,
sand and all that crap. Yeah, with the vibrator. Yeah, I mean, you could throw a big vibrator in there too. I guess it would do the exact same thing, but it shakes up all that stuff with the vacuum. And then, but I mean, I'm seeing those, like, I probably saw 5 of those yesterday. That's like the new thing.
Yep.
And so you kind of have to, I mean, even like you take someone like Alex Hormosi, the dude's got a hat on, he's got his beard, he's got his flannel, and he's got his muscle shirt. Like, and he's literally, and his little Daisy Duke shorts.
He calls it his Darwin outfit.
That's,
Did you see his video?
He literally wears that. He's like Jay Leno. He literally wears that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like, and obviously he does it for his own, he explained why he wears that, but it's also part of his brand. So if you've got another guy that comes out, like, I'm not going to show up for my next podcast or short form stuff with a workout shirt on and my hat on backwards. Like,
you could pull it off.
I think so. Like, I mean, I maybe, depending on how much I've been working out, but like, just like, that's not my thing. So I have to be my own thing. Even when we were talking about developing this podcast in particular, we kind of talked about different strategies and that kind of thing. And I was like, I don't want to do that, because I don't want to be like every other detailer, detailing podcast. There's nothing wrong with those, but I have a particular style, a particular way I talk to people. And this is kind of my podcasting, Kevin. So I'm a little bit different than I normally would.
I noticed,
face to face, but at the same time, that's
not
just
too much,
keep things flowing. But I do want to interview people that are like I interviewed a girl last week that runs like an artistic hot rod shop. I'm going to talk to welders and business owners and people that have nothing. I talked to a guy that does fabrication for Jeep Grand Cherokees. I think that came out this week. And like, they're totally not in detailing. but everybody has something to offer. And so what all that to say, like I've tried to do what we're talking about, which is figure out what works for me and figuring out what I think will best meet the needs of the people that I'm trying to reach.
100%. And I think there's nothing worse. I always had the perspective of like, I want to make sure I am me in these podcast episodes or whatever, because there's nothing worse than like trying to put on a facade and then you go to like SEMA and people start meeting you and like you're different than in the content or like anything like that, you know? So, yeah, but, and then people want to like, I think we're really seeing that in the TikTok craze right now of like, people want to connect with other people, you know? Like the amount of day in the life videos of a 9-to-5 guy that has a normal job, videos that I've seen that have hundreds of thousands of likes, and the guy literally is just filming what he does and has a 9-to-5 job is incredible. And I'm like, good for that guy, you know? So just
you go through a TikTok on some of the, on some of the lives on TikTok, and you're like, "There's seriously this guy that has 20,000 likes on this video of him playing this video game for the last hour. What the hell is wrong with our society?" But like, that's not my thing. But like, he's then connecting to a particular tribe that then wants to watch him play Call of Duty or whatever else he's playing.
Some people just hold a sign and say, "I'm not talking until someone makes me laugh." And I'm like, dude, you literally did nothing. And, you know, like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Done nothing, you know, but
I'm going to try that. And then, you know, I want to make sure I have some underboob. I'm going to try both of those strategies once I get to 1,000 followers on TikTok. I'm like at 800 right now. So go follow my TikTok. Help me get there so I can wear that outfit.
If you post in enough detailing groups for people to follow you, I bet you'll get close to 1,000.
There you go. I was just going to buy them, make it easy.
Yeah, it's way easier. Easier.
So like all right. So we talked about detailing, we talked about business. So you've got some, and we don't have to give away all your trade secrets, but you're doing some short form content. Mm-hmm. You've got some consulting clients. Yep. You do a little bit of real estate, Airbnb stuff. Yep. And so like, how do you what's your strategy for the next, 3 to 5 years, 1, 3, and 5 years on like kind of how you're going to try to grow this? Mm-hmm. You and I always check in like, hey, how's the revenue stream going? How's the we always talk cash flow, right? It's like, how's the cash? Well, yep, it's rough this month. This is what I'm doing to get it up. And what's funny with both of us, I think, is that we're always looking for ways to then bump that cash flow up for a certain amount of time. Or it's like, hey, I'm down to X number of dollars and I just got this huge check in. And I think detail shops can kind of do that same thing, but kind of talk me through that process and what kind of your goals are. We're kind of wrapping up here, but I want to get into that a little bit.
Yeah. So, my goal, like I had mentioned, as of like a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago, really decided like, okay, content creation is going to come first. That is going to be my main focus. And that's going to be my main revenue generator, right? The consulting's great. I love that. But in a way, that is content creation too, because I create content based on the products that I'm sent for. It's just internal, right? And so, but the plan is to do a lot more external content and continue with that. I have something on the Amazon side that I'm not ready to publicly talk about. I will tell you about it, but that is mainly a cash flow play and a volume play. And it has nothing to do with detailing, it has nothing to do with FBA, it has nothing to do with having my own product on Amazon. It's a very unique Amazon product that I just found out about back in like February. Maybe I even mentioned it to you. But that's kind of like
we've talked about it, but it's one of those Amazon things that doesn't allow Amazon to take over your world and make you hate your life, because Amazon and every other level does that. So
they do a little bit. So a little bit, but then the goal, so content creation and just really like anytime I had another epiphany, someone's going to take out all the times I said epiphany and then make a reel out of that. That'd be a really funny one. But
I know what I'm doing the rest of the afternoon. 100%.
But the epiphany was so good that I forgot it right now. No, but like, if I can, anything that I really focus on and I experimented with Instagram over the past like year, 18 months. I caught myself putting out all these podcast episodes about like, you guys should really take advantage of Instagram. You guys should really take advantage of Instagram. And then I was like, dude, you're not even taking your own advice. Like, are you kidding me? Like, who are you to tell these people you're shitting on them, right? And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to take my own advice and I'm going to see how big I can grow it. And in about a year, I grew it to 100,000 followers or whatever they call them on Instagram, right? And so that was like a little test for me of like, man, if I really dive into something 100%, it has success. It bears fruit, right? And for so long, I've been opposed to calling myself like a content creator, an influencer, or whatever. And I've done like okay with it and done pretty good. But imagine if I really like owned that title and did it 100%, right? So I really had that mindset shift within the past few weeks. And so that is my goal. And so build up the cash flow from that, the influence from that, and then pour it into real estate, because real estate is my end goal.
Yeah. And as you know, I do a little bit of real estate myself. So that's definitely, as far as a long-term wealth plan, real estate is hard to beat over the course of.
But that may include one thing I would really like to do. I think it'd be really fascinating. And I'm dabbling with two arenas here. One thing I would really like to do is try to purchase like a car wash, whether that be like a coin op or an express wash, and document that journey of what that's like, right? Problem for that with me around here where I live, those are like 5 to 50 million, right? And I'm not cash flowing that, right? So that's an interesting step.
Yeah.
Another interesting journey that I'm thinking about, but I don't think I'm going to dabble into it, but I wish people were a little bit more open to it, is like developing a product line. I think that would be interesting because I have so much experience behind the scenes that I could open up that world a little bit. And I think that would be interesting. There's a high chance of failure with that. So I'm not sure I'm willing to go down that road and then absolutely fail and then document the whole thing and fail. Which is why, and I'm not sure I want to do that. But it's definitely something that I'm considering. But both of those things, either route has the end goal of good cash flow to then pour into real estate, which is the long-term wealth kind of plan.
Which, I mean, a car wash too, you're dealing with the real estate even
exactly
that. They talk about McDonald's. McDonald's is the largest real estate holder in the world.
Yeah.
Because as a franchisee, you don't actually own the ground. The McDonald's Corp owns the ground that those stores sit on. So like real estate's definitely a way to, I mean, and honestly, the coin op stuff, those places you can buy for 5 million are probably netting 15 every year, because the car wash, all that car wash stuff is so crazy. And I'm going to have Dylan Von Kleist on here because we're going to talk about his new gig with the car wash company. And it's like that old debate, detailing versus car wash. And there's like, dude, that's where the money is. There's a ton of.
There is no debate.
Figure out a way to get over it.
Yeah, there is no debate. The car washes is the industry. They crush. They crush. You compare a detail shop to a car wash, no comparison. No comparison.
Yeah,
not even close.
Yeah, the amount of cash, and if they're and if they've got subscription services, there's actually one here that probably costs $8 million. It's a brand new one. But it's got full detail shop and PDR and tent and all that. But like their big money maker, and like when it rains, I'm like, there's no one there, but I know that they're earning, they're getting $29.99 a month or whatever that subscription service is, and so they don't care if it rains all month. They probably want it to.
Sure, their machine's not running.
Still getting $30 a month, right?
100%. Yeah, I just did a whole podcast episode on that.
I have to have one. Did you? Well,
because we
episode number 757.
Yeah, probably. No, because we Heather's car's in the shop, and so we got a rental car. And my kids drive me nuts about they've always wanted to go through a car wash tunnel, but I'm like, absolutely not. Like, go with grandma. Like not happening, right? And so we have a rental car, and I'm like, guys, let's go to the car wash. So I looked up like what car wash has like the most LED rainbow foam. I mean, I wanted like the full show, And so we went to this one, and I was like, dude, I was so impressed by it, not of how well it cleaned the car, because I knew that would be lacking, right? But like the upsell they offer, the cross sell, the downsell, the vacuum, the tunnel. And I'm like, dude, they got 2 dudes working here, right? Go for the hard sell of the monthly. But if you just do the one time, they're going to give you half off the next one. They lure people in with the vacuums. Takes about 90 seconds to make it through the tunnel. I'm like, holy smokes, man. Like, this is brilliant. And that's where the entrepreneurial mind comes in instead of the business owner. You know, I didn't even know if it had LED lights.
I might know a guy that may want to part. I'll strong arm Dylan into making us a good deal, and you and I'll open one in like some weird place in Kansas where real estate's cheap.
Yeah,
or something like that. So
there's that.
Yeah, that's definitely the way to go. And I think you do a better job of, or at least doing one currently, of focusing on, just a one particular thing at a time and kind of riding that horse. And that's one thing that I do a poor job of. We actually just killed a couple of our brands that were underperforming. Because I didn't want to spend any more time on them. But I think that's important, that whatever you're doing, whether it's in your own detail business, your own, automotive business, whatever it is, focus on those things and keep that pushing forward.
It's hard to focus. So I would push back for me a little bit. I do have ADD a little bit. And when things are like in their infancy stage, like this Amazon thing I'm doing is in its infancy stage, and it is a little bit of a roller coaster. Though when you look at the trajectory over the course of like a month, it's really good. But of course, I look like hour by hour, day by day. And so I ride that roller coaster a little bit in the infancy stages. And it's hard to keep that intensity up once it hits there. So Instagram's a perfect example of that. Like, I hit close to 100,000, actually did go over 100 and then drop down a little bit. And like, for me to keep up that intensity on it is very difficult. Like I've been telling myself all day, I need to post today. I need to post today. I need to post today. And I'm like, mid-afternoon and I haven't posted, but after this I'm going to post. But it's hard for me to be intense about it, focus on one thing, get it to where I want it to be, and then hold it there, or like grow it by micro percentages. It's hard for me to do that too.
I mean, I think that's an entrepreneur thing though too. I think it's just really hard to focus because we love the creative process of it. Mm-hmm. To be able to go in and see things and be able to change. That's why I was so excited to go to work for Chris here and help him with some consulting stuff with this and content creation, is because it's like, oh, it's a new shiny
totally
moving parts and pieces, and I can help fix. I can look at how those processes are. I can look at my title is officially like Director of Revenue Development and Strategic Partners, and so like I have this huge array of stuff that I can focus on and do and do for these guys, and help them grow it, be a part of something, and then keep my other stuff that I'm also still a part of. So yeah, it's
what a great idea.
Are you using like go ahead.
I was gonna say, and what a great idea for Chris to bring you on and kind of be able to take that entrepreneurial person and kind of put him in the right position to help grow his business as well. I think it's a brilliant idea.
I mean, I hope so. So far, it's been a lot of fun, and we're making, I'm one of my jobs is to kind of take Chris out of his comfort zone. I sent him a big document yesterday on some stuff, and he sent me back an email to say, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. And so I sent him a voice memo. I said, you're not allowed to tell me no. I'll talk to you on Wednesday. And so I'll let him stew over it for a couple of days. And then hopefully then we'll come up with a strategy to do to do what I want to do, or to do kind of, so we have this kind of, again, a big opportunity, but it may, at its surface, at its face value, doesn't look like it would be a fit for what it is that we do. But I'm always looking for ways around objections like that to say, well, maybe it's not for this, in this particular scenario, but let's look at other scenarios and figure out a way to make it work. But it's been a lot of fun for sure. The team is great. I mean, these detailers, the 8-bit creative and details roadmap people, it was like instant rapport with these guys, and I've really enjoyed being a part of it. when you go, the first and only time I've been to Milwaukee to go visit the home office, we did pictures. We did like new team pictures, and like I was doing handstands. You know, I'm the super old guy doing handstands out there, and so I'm like, if they think this is funny and they think this is okay, then I'm in the right place. So
my only gripe with Chris, I spent a little time with him. My only gripe is that he has an Android, so it's kind of weird.
I know, but like he's a WhatsApp guy, which is kind of works. He's able.
I'm locked out of my.
He's
WhatsApp
able to work around the all things Apple. Well, I told you stop posting that kind of stuff. But yeah, like I mean, I'm sitting here with my iPhone and Apple Watch and iPads over there, and my Mac Mini and my Mac
AirDrop is just like
I'm fully. Yeah. I mean that alone is the.
If you're not AirDropping, get out of here.
Leave Apple.
Yeah.
You're old school. Well, I've taken up a lot of your time. Any final words of wisdom for these anybody that might be listening?
How's that? No, just do it. Like literally just start doing it, you know, like we can so often, and I'm super guilty of this too. So maybe I'm saying this for me, but like so often we can get in our own head about like, that walkthrough video sucked, or like, my lighting sucks, or like Kevin looks so much prettier than I do, or more handsome, or I don't have the right camera. Like, we have all these things, and I'm super guilty of this too. We have all these little like roadblocks in front of us. And I think what we need to do, what helps to overcome those is just to do the thing, you know, and have it come out crappy and like be okay with that. Like I've been trying to finish up this YouTube video for like a week, and I'm going to go do it. And I've been putting it off because I'm like, well, it's kind of loud today. I don't want to get my camera. I don't want to do that. And I'm like, dude, just do it. Like I even was telling myself, just set up your phone on a tripod. Like don't get the DSLR out. Don't get the good mic out. Like just shoot it on your phone just so you could put out that video, because it's not the one, if you're trying to shoot a video to go viral and you're banking like one video to do that, never going to happen. Or maybe it will, but your chances are very low. So it's the collective of your set of videos or the collective of your podcast that do the job, not one. And you really don't want one to go viral. I mean, you know, having one go viral and then having nothing, you just lose it. Like you get a taste of it and then you have nothing, and it sucks even worse than never having it in the first place. You know, it's like winning the lotto and then losing your money.
Lose it, which happens to absolutely everybody. I shot this weird video at this monster truck event, and it was literally a 6-second video of a truck driving by, and it's a ridiculous, you know, $300,000 truck that's completely tricked out, and it's like 15 feet tall and all that. That thing got like 700,000 views on TikTok, and like every other video I have gets like maybe a couple hundred, 400, 500, 600, something like that. So like it did absolutely nothing for me monetarily or even follower wise. So don't get caught up in the virality of a particular.
You also don't know what's going to work.
I think that
like, did you think that truck video was going to get 700,000? Probably not. Like, did I think foaming a door panel was going to get 17 million? Like, no, you know, no way. And I still continue to like try stuff out. And I'm like, oh, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. That definitely doesn't work. This kind of works. Like, you don't know. You can't game it. You just got to try it and do it.
Yeah, for sure. I do appreciate the fact that you just completely downgraded my 700,000 by saying
I did that on accident. As I was saying this, I'm like, that's a dick move. I'm like, that was a big dick move. But I didn't. That's not, my heart wasn't in that spot, but it came out like that. Sorry.
Hey, even if it were, I'm totally fine with you, because that pretty much defines our relationship. And because we, you know,
me taking a big old
love each other, we know that that's okay for you to do that, and I would do it. I would do it to you. Hey, so tell me where to find you. You know, where can people check out your 100,000 followers on Instagram? Let's bump that up a little bit. YouTube and everything.
If you want to see my viral 17 million view video, you could head over to my Instagram. My Instagram is just Jimbo Balaam, but honestly, to make it easy, if you just go to autodetailingpodcast.com, I have all my social links there. I'm sure Kevin will put it in the show notes. But I'm probably most active on my personal Instagram, which is just Jimbo Balaam. That's where all my viral hits go. But autodetailingpodcast.com will get you to all those places.
Yeah, and that was an interesting, we didn't talk about this strategy. So autodetailingpodcast.com, Jimbo Balaam, which is Balaam. So you can find him on that. But we didn't talk about this very much. But what you and I have had this discussion, I get much more traffic on my personal TikTok, personal Instagram than I do on my business branded Instagram, TikTok, YouTube.
It just felt like
again, that goes back to,
Go ahead.
Just goes back to that authenticity and what people are looking for. And they, for whatever reason, you're selling them the same thing personally as you sell them on your business page, but yet they want to hear it from you personally, not from your business page, which is, I think, interesting.
And it could shift and it could change. And I think that's part of it too, of like being able to be agile, because things change extremely quickly. And it seems like it's changing even quicker, as time goes on. So you got to be agile.
100%.
Cool, man.
Well, brother, I thank you. Appreciate you coming on board. And we're going to, it's time for episode number 15 of the Kevin Davis, Jimbo Balaam Auto Detail.
Oh, we've done way more than 15.
But you think?
I think so. I enjoy it.
Yeah, we probably have.
I like it.
Yeah, it's fun. We get a ton of feedback on that. So, for sure. It's been really good, but I appreciate you. I hope you have a great day, and go shoot your YouTube video.
I will. Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate it.
Get your one-stop success solution at detailersroadmap.com today.